Hello and welcome to Sliders and Wings, the podcast about the TV show Sliders
and the TV show Wings
and all the other forgotten TV shows of the 90s.
I'm Valerie Temple.
And I'm Rachel Cox. Good evening, Val.
Good evening, Rachel.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you? How was your trip to Baltimore?
It was good. It started off horrible. Greg won't participate in any kind of planning, so I do it all. And then as we experience all the things that I've planned, he passes judgment. Bit by bit on all the different things. I'm only using a Holiday Inn Express and Hilton Garden Inns because I got memberships to them. I used to live there. I lived there for 4 years going to school there, but I don't remember where everything is. So basically I thought I booked this hotel that was right near the Inner Harbor and it's right by the jail. Someone had to walk to the door and unlock it to let us in.
Oh my God. The first time I ever came to Philadelphia, it was on a trip to help my friend Michelle find a place to live. She was going to start a PhD program at Temple, and we got the cheapest hotel within a range of Philadelphia. And it was in a place called Carneys Point, New Jersey. Which was as nice as it sounds. It was like 30 miles outside of the city. Same thing happened to me the first time I went to Boston. We found a hotel way far out, not close at all to where we were going.
One thing that the internet really can't help you with, you actually do need a human to tell you don't go there.
I think that's why the only time I've ever had success moving to a new city and moving to a good neighborhood is like when I moved to a place I was familiar with already, or I already had a couple friends who lived there and they were like, this one sounds good, don't do it.
We went to this comedy show and I booked it during the heady days of early June when like everything was opening up and like
that's
May,
gonna
June.
be great.
Yeah. And my mother asked me last night, like, so what's the deal with the comedy show? Because a lot of them require vaccination cards. And I said, well, I haven't got any emails about needing to be vaccinated. And I said, I'm assuming it's like outside in a tent or something. I don't know. No, it was indoors and it was 300 people in a room and no one was wearing masks. Not that the masks are going to stop particles from circulating around a closed room anyway. And I was like, all right, well, hand to God. It's just you, me, and the ventilation system.
Good luck to you, Rachel.
And I kind of walked in. I was like, okay, well.
Like, oh, man.
If it doesn't get me now, it's never going to get me. Do you ever just stop and think, how have I not gotten it? Doesn't it seem improbable?
I sort of think I'm probably like one of the people who outlived the plague in the stand. It has nothing to do with me being particularly safe. Maybe I have a gene that is resistant to it. That's the only way that I can explain me not having gotten it, because we were really, really assiduous about it for a couple months and it was so exhausting. And you still are constantly, no matter how hard you work at it, it's an impossible task.
It's actually impossible because it's like taking vitamins for 10 years. You're like, is this doing anything? There's no immediate visual reward.
Right. And also there's just a lot of stuff that you do unconsciously. You're unconsciously touching your face or rubbing your nose. You can't be that aware of yourself.
But we did see a really good comedian, Tim Dillon. You didn't know who he was, but he's good. He was on the Last Comic Standing, mainly known for his podcast. I think he first got famous for doing these videos where he impersonated Meghan McCain. So that, it was good. We turned it around.
Norm Macdonald was a judge on one season of Last Comic Standing.
Too bad that you're not as smart as you thought you were in the first place. Too bad that you had to get caught. That's not like you to lose face. So sad that you're not as smart as you thought you were in the first place. Too bad. Too bad. Too bad. Too bad. Too bad.
You should know before I go any further, William, I have no training in this specific area of mental health.
What area do you have training in?
Professional hockey. But it doesn't matter. You're so screwed up, basically anyone can help you.
Okay, so we are here to talk about the Norm Show. And this is going to get a bit confusing because I believe there's been multiple shows. There was a show recently that was on Netflix that Greg and I watched all of it. It was a talk show. And I think it was just called the Norm Macdonald Show. So, let's get it straight. We're talking about.
And this show had two titles.
It switched to just Norm.
Yeah, it was the Norm Show when it started. And then in the second season, it just became Norm. According to Wikipedia, it says that the reason they changed the title was to avoid a legal conflict with a comic strip called The Norm, which doesn't seem real. Like, that doesn't seem...
You were retooling it, just admit.
I know.
I never even considered putting this on our list because I didn't remember that it was started in the 90s, because I remember watching it in college, and for me, college straddled the turn of the century. So I guess I assumed it was too late.
It's right on the edge, Rachel.
It's on the edge. Started in 99.
The razor's edge of the 90s.
To be fair, it started in spring of 99. So it had a good 9 months in the 90s. And then to honor Norm Macdonald, I never saw Norm live or anything, but I consider myself a Norm super fan solely because I watched this show when it aired in its entirety. I mean, how many people can say that?
It's true. I did watch the show as well, although I'm sure not in its entirety. That was during the era where I was not watching TV as much.
I think I also saw Dirty Work in theaters, I'm pretty sure.
I saw Dirty Work for the first time in grad school in a class that I took on lowbrow comedy. Education at work, folks.
That class cost $2,400.
I know, exactly. I was paying that off for a decade.
The Norm Show is an American television sitcom that ran on ABC from March 24th, 1999 to April 6, 2001, and right before 9/11.
Whoa.
They would have had to tackle that, obviously.
And it would have been interesting, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The way that Norm would have tackled 9/11.
It's somewhere buried in my brain was the memory of this opening theme song. Too bad that you're not as smart as you thought you were anyway. Too bad. And it's all a cartoon. It's very much like the intro to the Dave Barry show.
Dave's World.
Starring, tell me.
Harry
Tell
Anderson.
me.
Harry Anderson.
I didn't know it. I wasn't
I feel-
texting you. I knew you would know it.
I feel like I was about to fail it. And then right at the last second, I was like, I got it. I pulled it deep from the recesses of my brain.
So I was watching the show and reminded of an actor who's in it, Ian Gomez. And I remembered, I wonder how his marriage with
Nia Vardalos
is. Divorced. And then
They're divorced? No.
Divorced, yes. And then Nikki Cox is in it. And I was like, I remembered who she was. And I said, I wonder how she and Jay Moore are doing.
Divorced. I knew about that divorce. So Ian Gomez is one of the side characters on this show, and he was, I guess, Nia Vardalos' husband, and their romance is the inspiration for my big fat
Greek wedding.
Which is funny to me because
he looks just like John Corbett.
Right, exactly.
That movie was horrible. I saw in the theater.
Not.
It's so hammy.
It's really, really cheesy. It's corny AF. It's real bad. It just must have tapped into something.
That Greek market.
Nia Vardalos got to play herself, but they didn't let Ian play himself. I think they probably were like, no, we have to have the guy be aspirational. Wow, she's remade herself and now she's found love. And wow, this guy is such a catch. And sorry to this man, but Ian Gomez, just visually, he's probably is a nice man.
Yeah.
But he's not a dreamboat. The public wouldn't have bought it.
The setup for this show is like that show within the show Seinfeld, where Seinfeld goes to court and the judge assigns him to be someone's slave or something. Or
Butler.
Brother.
Yeah. I had the same thought, Rachel. Norm in the show has all these gambling debts.
But he was a hockey player, which is hilarious. So scrawny.
He's like, well, I'm Canadian. So hockey, but he's an ex-hockey player who got into trouble because of gambling. And then he got sentenced to 5 years of community service in which he has to serve as a full-time social worker, which makes no sense to me.
It has a caseload, does like one-on-one therapy, things that you usually need a license for.
Right. I'm pretty sure social workers have to go to a lot of school. They have to be certified, Yeah,
like if you were volunteering there, you would just be getting coffee and filing.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have clients. It is a funny premise.
And the gambling thing is drawn from Norm Macdonald's actual life.
He lost and regained his fortune twice from gambling. And he says the reason why he ever became a gambling addict is because I guess he was playing on a whim and won some large amount of money, like $20,000, and then he became a gambling addict.
Wow. That's the only way I would find gambling interesting. Usually I find it incredibly boring. It just seems like a waste of time.
And casinos are incredibly depressing.
Yeah, they're really sad places.
Did you know that Artie Lang came in the second season?
Oh yeah.
as Norm's half-brother Artie. And
Yep.
Faith Ford came on as Norm's probation officer and love interest. Whoa.
And after the first few episodes, they get a new boss.
Yes, he was the guy from Alf.
Yeah, Willie.
The dad from Willie from Alf. What I remember most from the show was just that I thought it was really funny, laugh out loud funny, and that I was really bummed when it was canceled. And then he had a wiener dog. And then the one episode I remembered was when Laurie Metcalf's character, who's his coworker as a social worker at the social work office. I don't know what's going on, but she can't sleep unless she's next to Norm. And then so she's go over there every day. But they don't have any kind of romantic relationship.
No, they have like no sexual chemistry. There is no will there or won't they.
No.
Norm and Laurie, like they are platonic.
But then what's her name? Heather, she's one of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She's the one that kisses Norm in the second episode.
Oh, okay. She was on the Real Housewives?
Yes, she's on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Heather, she's married to the plastic surgeon.
I know nothing about the Real Housewives.
Okay, so she was on the show that I watched called That's Life. Have you ever seen that? It's from 2000. She played Lydia DeLuca, and she was like a 35-year-old who's going back to college or something. I don't know. I really like that show. But I always get her mixed up with the woman that played Annie in Caroline in the City.
Oh, yeah.
She's not her. She's just more of a bit actress that ended up marrying this really rich plastic surgeon and ended up being on The Real Housewives of Orange County, not Beverly Hills. Anyway, she plays the woman who kisses Norm in the second episode. So anyway, yeah, I thought this was pretty hilarious and it really took me back.
Oh yeah, it was really funny. You've got some heavy hitters. I mean, Laurie Metcalf, the guy who created this show was a writer on Roseanne, and he was the co-creator of The Conners. Listen to this list of shows that he has created. Bruce Helford, he created Civil Wars, which is on our list for forgotten shows, the show with Mariel Hemingway. Then he also created The Drew Carey Show. He also created a show called Nikki.
Starring Nikki Cox.
Starring Nikki Cox, George Lopez, Wanda at Large, Freddie, which is a show that had Freddie Prinze Jr. at the center, Kevin Can Wait, The Conners. He seems to really like working with comedians, turning a comedian's act into a sitcom. But you can't really call Freddie Prinze Jr. a comedian.
There's a joke that is really funny. He tries to get his dog back after Norm adopted him from the pound. He gets the dog, and then the guy comes back and says, I really need the dog back. I shouldn't have given him up. And then Norm's like, no, forget it. I'm keeping this dog. And he goes, you can't just take people's dogs. He goes, buddy, we're social workers. We can take kids.
Yeah, that was so funny. We're social workers. We take kids. Wow. What a button to end your pilot episode. Pretty dark.
But I highly recommend the other Norm show that he did. It's called Norm Macdonald Has a Show. It's an American Netflix talk show hosted by Norm Macdonald, and there are only 10 episodes. These are the guests: David Spade, Drew Barrymore, Judge Judy, David Letterman, Jane Fonda, Chevy Chase, M. Night Shyamalan, Michael Keaton, Billy Joe Shaver, and Lorne Michaels.
Who's Billy Joe Shaver?
He was an American outlaw country singer and songwriter.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, he was the only one I didn't know. Everyone else was big deal.
So last night, Greg and I watched maybe like 20 Norm Macdonald clips, and then I had a full-on dream about Norm Macdonald where he had this like crazy Pee Wee Herman type house, and I was visiting him, and I was like, but I know he's sick. I should leave. He won't tell me to leave, but I need to know when to leave.
I had a dream recently that was inspired by an episode of The Other Two, that one where he's being gay baited. And in the dream, I'm canoodling with Jimmy Fallon. I know, who I don't like, but I guess my subconscious was like, here you go.
But
Great.
does it ever happen that you have a dream like that and then suddenly you do find that person attractive? That's happened to me.
I used to think he was cute in the early days of SNL. I thought he was cute. In the dream, we're canoodling and he's like, can you wear this mask? I was like, I don't really want to. He's like, come on, it'll be fun. And then I'm wearing this mask, and then there's footage of us, paparazzi footage, and he has green screened a different face onto my face. It was his way to hide me.
Hiding you, yeah.
That was my dream. Isn't that weird?
I see the similarity.
Yeah.
Did you finish watching the other two?
I still have the season finale.
Oh, okay, let me know.
Yeah.
It was good. I don't really have anything for accent corner. I mean, Norm doesn't have a particularly strong Canadian accent.
Kinda does.
Yeah.
You can still tell he's from Canada. Norm Macdonald, though, just has a particular way of talking. It's just so funny. He just has this delivery that really makes me laugh. There's this giddy, childlike thing he's doing. He's just so excited to say this really dumb thing. He's very mischievous. There is a twinkle in his eye. I can't wait to say this naughty thing. I just love Norm Macdonald. He was my Weekend Update anchor. He's the one I grew up on. So I don't think anyone has ever topped him.
And the most 90s thing to me were the wide-legged jeans. Very wide. I mean, Laurie Metcalf's outfits, as I texted you when I was watching it, were amazing. They were just like timeless. Simple business clothes, slim fitting, but not tight, and
nothing flashy.
Bold, like all solid prints.
They felt good. She looked good. I think the most 90s thing for me was the quality of the video footage at the end of the second episode where he has filmed her convincing her to give mouth to mouth to his dog. That would be something that would be in a show today, but the image would be more HD.
I like to wait to the last minute to come up with a Mad magazine.
Good strategy.
Yeah. What do you got?
I have normal. Norm? More like normal. That's how you make it work.
I don't have one then.
One thing that I wanted to bring up about what I remembered about the Norm show when it was coming out, when it was on the air, I vividly remember reading an article where Norm Macdonald was talking about the show, and he was just like, yeah, I like doing it. But it's really hard to learn all these lines. You just really hated learning lines. I see that.
I mean, whatever I think about being an actor, I think that's the bulk of the work. A lot of memorizing.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone can do it.
Line.
Yeah. Norm Macdonald just doesn't seem like the kind of guy who has that in his practice.
I mean, a comedian has to memorize a ton of stuff to do
That's
the set in
true.
order, and then they have to be able to kind of switch things around as needed. I could tell that the guy who opened for Tim Dillon on Saturday night, he was good. Like, I mean, I've seen a lot of openers who were horrifying. He was fine, but not near super professional. And I could see there were some times when he was thrown for a loop. I could just see in his face trying to recover.
I lost my place.
Yeah. He's like, oh God, I'm gonna go kill myself. No, I'm not. Don't worry. I'm not actually gonna do that. Anyway, I'll do the next joke. Well, it helps when all the people in the audience have actually paid to see you specifically, and you're not just the person shoved in front of them.
Yeah, that's true. There's more grace offered to you.
So conclusion is the Norm show, or Norm, is all on YouTube, and it's very, very watchable.
It's very funny. I think it really captures Norm Macdonald's je ne sais quoi, really.
Yeah.
They're social workers. So there's vaguely serious subjects peppered in, but there's this kind of mischievous delight, fun jokes, but they're actually dealing with people who are really going through stuff. I think that's very Norm. He was a real interesting mix of salty and sweet.
Are you still watching Sequest?
I haven't watched another
No,
episode.
I mean, you got a lot on your plate.
I do have a lot on my plate.
That's gonna have to go on the back burner.
I know. Right now I have a lot of movies from the library. That's even harder to fit in.
We should both watch Malignant on HBO Max. It's supposed to be campy horror.
Okay, we'll do that.
Hopefully it'll be there for a while. I also can't really conceive of sitting down to watch a whole movie, but maybe I will. I finished watching 9 Perfect Strangers.
Conclusion?
I think that the show is, I guess it's uneven. So I think that parts of it are pulpy and parts of it are bad. And I think the reason why I recommend it is that there is one storyline. There's 3 characters. It's like all these different people that are dealing with different issues that have come to this retreat. But there's just clearly these 3 characters. They're 2 parents and their daughter. And they're clearly the most convincing, resonant storyline that is given the most attention. It also connects to the Nicole Kidman's character's storyline. They are there because their son and brother killed himself 3 years earlier, and they're there to recover. So that got me, of course, because I'm putting myself in their shoes. And also the dad is played by Michael Shannon, not Sheen. I get them so mixed. I mean, I don't get them mixed up. I get their names mixed up.
Michael Shannon has a really big head.
Yes, huge head, goggle eyes, tall.
By the way, I've seen him in person. I was at a party once in Toronto at the film festival, and his head came in the door first. It was so big. It looks big on the screen. In person, it almost looked like a deformity, but also still very handsome.
Did you ever see Bug with him and Ash? Oh my God.
Oh my God, that movie is, yeah.
Bug with Ashley Judd.
It's just skin crawling, but.
Well, his character's name is Napoleon Marconi.
In 9 Perfect Strangers?
Yes.
What? Napoleon Marconi?
But I think it's worth it to watch it for his performance. I still think about it. It was really good. And Nicole Kidman, despite all the whatever is in her face, is still a good actress. I wonder what she thinks. Like, does she think that she did a good job? Does she like, I went too far?
You'll never know.
I got a few good looks at her ears. Her ears look gigantic, and she has these gigantic lobes that hang down, and it made me think that extra skin was pulled back, because if you think about it, she's always hiding her ears.
That reminds me of, there was this actress named Vera Ellen. She was in a lot of musicals. She was
from White Christmas.
In White Christmas. She's very, very, very thin. And there's these theories that she was anorexic. And the costuming in White Christmas was designed to disguise how ravaged her neck looked from her disease. So like, if you watch that movie, she never shows it's all turtlenecks. I don't know if that's actually true, but it is kind of weird. She's in little tap dance outfits for half of the movie. So it's odd that she's basically in leotards, but the leotards also have turtlenecks. So it's kind of weird.
Now I'm dying to know what her neck looked like. Show me the neck.
I want an investigation. I want to see that neck.
Briefly after we moved to the new house, Oscar had a TV in his room. It would just show regular TV. One night I ended up watching part of an X-Files episode with him. And it was the one where it's a Christmas episode with Lily Tomlin and Ed Asner, and they play ghosts in this house. I feel like this is something you should do to just stave off Alzheimer's. Watch X-Files with a 7-year-old and then try to explain afterwards to them what was going on. Very challenging. They weren't dead. They were just imagining they were dead, but it looks like also that maybe if she had thought she was dead, that she really would be dead. Oscar's like, huh?
You're like, never mind, go to bed. Time for bed. So the movie that I did end up making time for this week is called The Children's Hour. Have you ever seen this? It's a movie from the 60s with Shirley MacLaine and Audrey Hepburn and James Garner. And it's based on a Lillian Hellman play. So I got it out of the library because I had watched The Celluloid Closet, which is a groundbreaking documentary about gay and lesbian representation in movies. I was watching it and I was just requesting all of the movies that looked interesting that I hadn't seen before. So The Children's Hour was one of those. And it had a little bit of the bad seed to it because there is an evil asshole little girl lying child in it.
Oh, and it's based on play. So it's got that vibe. Yeah.
Basically, it's like The Crucible, but for lesbians, where there's these two women, Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine, and they run a children's boarding school. And there's this piece of shit girl who's a liar. She's always getting in trouble. She sucks. And she kind of like has it out for these two women. And so she tells her grandmother that these women are lovers. And it's during a time where I guess that meant a lot, and it just basically destroys these two women's lives. All of the children get pulled out of the school. James Garner is engaged to Audrey Hepburn. He's a doctor. He gets fired from his job for associating with accused lesbians.
Wow.
Not even confessed lesbians, accused lesbians. It was pretty wild.
That's crazy. That sounds good.
It was good. I think you'd like it.
I forgot that I need actually your help in locating a movie.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So on and off for years, I've been trying to find out what this movie is. Do you remember before Bravo started having all the reality shows, they would show these like obscure art house films?
Yes.
So one time in the 90s, it must have been the late 90s, early 2000s, I caught part of a movie that was A, definitely from like late 70s, early 80s. B, set in New York, like hustling, bustling, definitely New York. And C, I remember I thought one of the characters was Tatum O'Neal. So I thought it was a younger girl and then an older girl. Do you know what you think it is?
Yeah, I think it's a movie called Times Square.
Well, I bought this movie on DVD called Rich Kids because I thought this was it.
Times Square. It's got Trina Alvarado in it and Robin Johnson as teenage runaways.
Trini Alvarado is also in Rich Kids.
Yeah. Did I get it?
Maybe I'm trying to find it.
It's about these two girls who befriend each other and they're runaways. So they're just kind of running around New York. This movie, Times Square, is good though. They start a punk band. It's pretty good.
Rich Kids has Trini Alvarado and then this boy who has a Tatum O'Neal style bowl haircut. And I actually haven't watched it yet. So I will watch it and see if that's it. But the more I'm reading about it and I'm thinking
You're like, this
not
isn't
it
it.
because they're the same age. I'll have to watch these both and then
report back.
to be continued.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it. That's all she wrote.
This has been Sliders and Wings with Val and Rachel. You can email us at slidersandwings@gmail.com.
Yeah. Okay.
Night. Bye.
Bye.